Tonight's episode is all about stories, because within each and every one of you is a great story, and there will always be a place on the internet for you to tell it. But recently there seems to be a bit of a misconception that to tell a great story you need an expensive computer and a drone and a DSLR, and while they definitely help make things look a bit more pretty, I'm proud to say that tonight's entire production was filmed on an $80 iMac and with a 10-year-old camera. But to tell you how I came up with this whole wild idea, I must first tell you another story entirely. So if you like stories, why not sit back, relax, get yourself a cup of tea or a beer if that's more your thing, and come along for the ride. It all started in the final week of semester. Tensions were high as the due dates for each assessment grew closer. One of the tasks involved a group presentation and a video presenting an idea for a service to do with food. My group decided to design a service that would help people decide what they feel like to eat. I was confident. We'd worked hard on our idea, and I had put together a Greenham gaming style video to demonstrate the fundamentals. The presentation went great, and the feedback from the tutor was almost entirely positive. It was a nice ego boost, nothing too dangerous yet, just a quiet satisfaction, a small but ever-present smirk as I left the building. As the next day came, it was on to the next assessment, and this one was all about model making. We had to come up with our own design for a hairdryer or hand drill, and then make an intricate scale model of our product. I chose to design a hairdryer inspired by the 2DS. The design part was easy, the intricate model making, not so much.
Not so. What does this have to do with the iMac?
I'm getting to that, James. Where was I? Ah, yes. Me and a few other students were staying late one night working on our models when the conversation turned to the presentations that we had all presented yesterday. It was at this point that the most gorgeous girl in the class, if not the entire course, decided to give me a compliment.
You know, Tim, I really liked your presentation yesterday. You're natural.
This simple compliment launched my already inflated ego into oblivion. It seemed like nothing could stop it, but I was in for a surprise. Overflowing with ego, I returned home and began ripping the garage to pieces looking for a topic for my next video, when I stumbled upon a box. It was from when I had last moved. It hadn't been unpacked. Inside was my childhood video camera and a bunch of tapes I'd filmed as a kid. Still high on that ego trip where every Tim James idea was a good idea, I was confident I'd found the topic for my next video. I got on eBay and then got in the Saab, and only hours later I had an $80 iMac on my desk, ready to start my next GHG production. I excitedly pulled out the camera and pressed play, but nothing could have prepared me for what was on those tapes. My ego trip was about to be brought to an abrupt halt by a 10-year-old version of myself. And now in our next section, we'll explore exactly what I found on those tapes, and the experience of editing them on our $80 iMac. MiniDV is truly an intriguing format. There is just something to be said about holding a tiny little VCR in your hand. It is this complicated but beautiful mechanism that allows me to share with you high quality footage of what my life looked like 10 years ago. At the time I filmed this footage, these moments seemed abundantly normal. It seemed almost silly to capture what was just normal everyday life, but I'm so glad I did, because watching it here 10 years later is an almost spiritual experience.
No! Hey, Nemo, he's that fish! You know, the one we were talking about! Hey, I know where your son is!
Hearing my own prepubescent voice, seeing pets that aren't around anymore, this kind of footage is quite literally irreplaceable. A great example of how irreplaceable this footage is would be some of the clips I found of the family farm where my brother and I did a lot of our growing up. You can't reproduce this footage because the entire thing was sold off and the new owner knocked it all down. Back then I was just as upset about it as I still am now.
Why sell such a place?
It was a magical place, truly special, and until I found these tapes, it only existed in our memories. But enough about me. This is the part where we pull the focus from my childhood to yours. If you have old MiniDV tapes lying around like I did, I strongly encourage that you pick up an old Mac like this, find your old camera or buy another, because it's more than likely that you'll find footage just as priceless to you as the footage of our old farm was to me. And as you watch it, ask yourself, was my life better back then? Was it more innocent? Or was it worse, where you felt out of place or even harassed? My point is this: I'm glad that you're here now, because within each and every one of you is a great story, a story untold. And if you want to show the world your perspective, if you want to share with us what was priceless and special to you, one of these iMacs are a cost-effective, charming, and speedy way to forge these masses of old footage into a cohesive story. iMovie HD or Final Cut Pro, two truly fantastic Mac-only editing suites, both work flawlessly to help you piece together your tale. No matter what it is that gets you up in the morning, I can promise you that there are thousands of others who get up for the same reason. And the magic of the internet is that you can be endlessly entertained, but at any moment, whenever you're ready, you yourself can be the entertainer. So if you're out there and you have a story to tell, or just something you want to share with the world, for less than $150, you can have all the gear you need to tell your great story. James, I don't know what I'm going to do with this video. I don't know where to take it.
What do you normally do?
I did the specs.
There you go, there's a start.
Our $80 iMac is clearly a bit of a gun when it comes to editing video, but what's under its skin? Perhaps its strongest point is its CPU. Funnily enough, it can outperform the E6300 in James's $100 PC, the one that supposedly beat the 360. Tucked under the Apple logo is the Radeon GPU. While it helps keep Final Cut running smooth, it can be outperformed by the GPU in the Xbox 360. That should give you a rough idea of its performance. It's not going to do much gaming, but it's nice to know it's in there somewhere, helping out. Further down, accessible by a tab in between the speakers, is 2 gigs of mobile DDR2 RAM. Perfect for most things, but you won't be able to go too nuts with the Chrome tabs. Upstairs a bit in the center of the machine is its 160 gig hard drive. More than enough if you have an external scratch disk for editing, but it will quickly fill up if you plan to fill your Mac with MiniDV footage. On the back there's plenty of I/O, but with only 3 USB ports you might want to pick up a hub if you have lots of things you want to connect.
Come on, I'm like everybody. When I go out to a coffee shop with my laptop computer, I install 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different USB devices.
So we've talked about the specs, but what now?
Well, I mean, you talked about editing on this Mac, but what else can it do? If you ask me, telling stories is one of the greatest joys of life. If you're going through rough times or big changes in your life, it's crazy how much better you feel straight after telling someone about it. Or perhaps you just have an idea or something you want to say. Whatever it may be, whoever you are, if you feel brave enough, I strongly encourage that you pick up a camera, grab a computer, I would recommend a Mac for this sort of thing, and tell your story. I'll be waiting. I'm Tim James. Thanks again for watching, and good night.